It is the dream for many people to be adventurer and go on incredible journey like what they did in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, and it is just you and your trusted companion exploring dungeon and fight horde after horde of enemies. I like sword and magic just as much as any one of you, but ever since I was a kid I thought to myself, it just looks so exhausting fighting all those enemy on your own, and the good guys always got outnumbered, sometimes 10 or even 100 to 1. That is why when I play any RPG games, I will always pick classes like Druid or Necromancer because they always have a lot of minion with them. They might not have as much as the enemy, but they will still have a decent amount. And I don't know about you guys, but I always think, why would I fight something alone and outnumbered? And how it just make more sense to get a bunch of minions to risk their life for me. I got more satisfaction from watching my minion shredding my opponent to pieces than getting my own hand dirty. That's why I like strategy game. I can control hundreds or even thousands of troops to fight for me, and they each have different attributes and gears. Instead of picking one class, I can be any classes that I wish to be. This passion for strategy game also influenced the type of books or novel that I read, but unfortunately it is really hard to find a good fictional book series that focus on strategy and managing your army. Most books that I find all focus on how the main character acquire cool spell and just wipes out hundred, if not thousands of enemy with one attack. I just find that incredibly boring. So you have a cool spell and you just use it to obliterate someone carefully crafted strategy and formation. That must be nice. But I just think it is so much cooler that the main character led an army to battle and used tactics as well as battle plans in order to best the opponent, as well as instead of just charging in there and kill whoever is on your way. It just get repetitive after a few pages, right? He swung his sword or releasing a blast that just take out everyone. I can't read books like that more than a few chapters, but apparently those books are extremely popular, so to each their own, I guess. But if you are a fan of strategy game and you think like me, then let's share with each other our limited stock of books that are like strategy game. That's the purpose of this video, and I will start a series sharing and reviewing books that have an element of real-time strategy game with you guys, and hopefully some of you in the audience can share with me their favorite books that contain element of strategy game, so I have more things to read. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today, for the first time ever, I will do a book review, and the first book or book series that will kickstart this mini-series that I'm doing is Rise of Mankind by Jez Cajiao. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly, and if I butcher your name, Jez, I'm sorry. So this book series is perfect for anyone who loves lit RPG and strategy game, and it adopts the very popular trend of turning the main character into a dungeon core. And for anyone who doesn't know what a dungeon core is, it is the main sword that create monster and loot in the dungeon. There have been a lot of video games and books that take on this angle, like the Dungeon Lore game series. Hopefully that's the correct name that I use for that series. I haven't played it yet, but I know it's kind of popular. But most of the time, it's just like a tower defense game, and those really don't scratch the right spot for an RTS fan like myself. This series reached that spot for me as it doesn't just focus on the defense of the dungeon. More the it focuses more on the main character becomes someone who can build a settlement and create his own warband and legion of monster. I was so glad that I found this series because I've been trying to find something like this for quite some time now, and none of the other lit RPG series focus on that mechanic. They either focus on the solo adventure or focus entirely on the defense of the dungeon. Maybe I haven't looked at the right places, or maybe I was too impatient to get to the part I want to read. But this one premise got me hooked immediately. I will be honest about this because I almost gave up on the sample. I read the sample first. I almost dropped it before finishing, and here's a little spoiler for y'all. The sample book on Kindle mostly focus on the main character journey to the first day or two of the apocalypse. And yes, this book happened in the modern day setting with the cliche of war ended and people start to get strained power or from some sort of system. The thing that this book did differently is that most people don't even get power or access to the system immediately after the end. So we have a period of time where people just stumbling around trying to figure out what the hell happened and what's the solution for all of this. And that is exactly what our main character did. Matt, the main character, got home from a crazy night and saw some weird stuff happening on the sky, and he also locked himself out of the house. So he had to travel to an old man named Marcus, an ex-military man from Germany. After some convincing and a lot of walking, he managed to get the old man to pick the lock and got himself inside. He got some shut-eyes and woke up with all the electricity gone and most of the modern technology stopped working. Being clueless about what happened, he decided to do the only thing that he could know. He went to his job as an IT guy or programmer. I don't really remember, although I finished the book just only a few weeks ago. So he started to notice signs that the war has ended, but he still hoped that it will get back to normal, and he just kept heading to his company. Unlucky for him, or maybe it was very lucky for him, he ran into a bunch of thugs and got robbed. They also gave him a beating and left him to die in the forest nearby. What they and Matt himself didn't expect that just close by the place they dumped him lie a core to a dungeon sent by a mysterious alien race, and that just kickstart his whole journey as the first dungeon lord, or maybe the only human dungeon lord. I haven't finished the series yet, so still a lot of questions that I need answer for. I will not get too into the plot and spoil everything in this video. If you want to know what happened to Matt, you will have to buy the first book, Rise of Mankind, Age of Stone, on Kindle, or you can subscribe to Kindle Unlimited. They do like 1 month free trial, so if you haven't signed up for it yet, then this book series is basically for free. As you sign up and get 1 month, you can finish the whole series in a month. I think the latest book is about to be released, so it's a perfect timing if you want to get into the series. This the time is now. You can get it now and get the whole like 8 books in like a week of reading, or even a month if you don't have that much time for read. So now I will move on to the pros and cons of this first book, and I will be doing the con first, then the pro, just like how I like to receive my news. Bad one first and then the good one after. So one con of this book is that it took forever to get to the plot that everyone is here for. It took the the majority of the sample just to get Matt to where he can set up his dungeon. The majority of it was just the main character walking around, didn't know what to do, and getting to fight with random people from street talk to traveling circus group. If someone is reading for the dungeon core aspect, then they might just drop the book before finishing the sample because it was just like any other lit RPG books, minus the cool monster. It is just the main character beating the shit out of somebody or getting his fakes kicks in while stumbling around the city. And it also took a while to get to the fight. The MC was like me when I play Fallout, getting distracted by random BS all the time. Another con is that the Irish or some sort of English dialect in this, the author really went with it for some of the character, and it literally gave me headaches. I'm the type of dude who do the voice acting of characters in my head while reading the dialogues, and that accent just really gave me a hard time. And that's it for the con. I understand the author was trying to paint a clear picture of the first day apocalypse for everyone, but by focusing on it too much, it drags some of the scenario out and make it tedious to read. I don't want to skim over because I'm afraid of leaving something important, but not really find those scenario interesting. That's why I was having such a hard time finishing the sample. But moving on to the pros of this book, Although the majority of the sample was a bit boring, but when the time come for the action, Jez really delivered, from a random fight all the way to dealing with a group of armed villains. I can immerse myself in those fights. There wasn't any magic or system to power up the main character at first, so he had to use his head and plan out what is the correct move to deal with his enemy. This is a good foreshadowing as he will have to lead his own warband or even army in the future as a dungeon lord. Matt is not that ahead of everyone early on, and the author drove that point home by putting him in situations that make him vulnerable or even on the border of breaking. Some authors just treat their main character too nicely, in my opinion, and make them really ahead of everyone. Why, it gives some sort of satisfaction to see the main character beating the shit out of someone that everyone hate, but it also make it so that the only threat to the character is like a bunch of very overpowered main villain. It's just overshadowing the entire cast of character that come along for the journey. But luckily, that doesn't happen in this book. The main character had to go through a lot of defeats and a lot of hardship to get ahead, but that just makes me rooting for him even more, and that doesn't happen a lot. I root for the opposite side all the time when I read books with overpowered main character, uh, but that is not the case here, and I can follow Matt and cheer for him whenever he defeated a normal thug or even a monstrous being. The author has also done a great job with how characters interact with each other and paint a picture of a chaotic setting where no one really know what is happening. There are a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers. So when people run into Matt and ask him about, hey, what's going on? He would be really mean to them sometime because he has important thing to do, and that just costs him a lot of time. So logically, or at least if I was in his shoe, I would flip out too and started acting really mean to anyone who have question that not even the main character have the answer for. It's make the character more relatable, unlike a lot of Boy Scout character out there. They're just being nice to everyone unless they are bad people. Matt here is the type of character that I really like, a gray one. He did some good, he did some bad, but he has value that he will never break. I like to think of myself as someone like that. And finally, the dungeon core mechanic is really good in this book. Jess design is so that it's actually more like a settlement than an actual dungeon. Matt is not limited to a cave or a building. He can expand his dungeon slowly, just build it up and turn it into a village or a city, but in order to do so he will need resources, just like in the strategy games. Resources that will require him to expand the dungeon to reach and to reach them, and while doing so he will bump into like nightmarish creature that need to be slain. The cool thing is there's a balance between real-time strategy and action in this book, as sometimes our main character will just send out a squad of goblin, spoiler, there will be goblins, to deal with an enemy, and they get absolutely freaking destroyed. Like, it's just so funny reading like some big monster just go to town and just break every goblin that it touch, and the main character was like, oh shit, I kind of feel bad because I sent them in there to die, but then he really thinking about it and think, yeah, I created them, so I'm not really sure they are like sentient beings, so he stopped feeling bad about it and immediately go back to like designing a better war band or better squad of monster to deal with it. And sometimes he will have to fight the monster himself, so get his hand dirty, but he always take his monster with him. So it will be like in Mount and Blade, right? You get action and you get strategy. And it's really interesting seeing how he just gear up for everyone, designing weapon, designing monster, like adding like, hey, this guy need a little bit of this type of mana, turning him to like a different type of monster that his original form is, and they just slowly and you know cluelessly figuring out the optimal way for designing a warband for himself. And when he finally figure out, or when he eventually get a perfect squad, we get rewarded with how the the enemy gonna be. It could be something monstrous, or it could be another warband that require him to fight, and it's blend perfectly with the setting, right? It's like the apocalypse, but not every gun is just somehow stop working. Only the electric device that get broken down. So Matt here will have to figure out how to fight with like new and improve stat that he have, while also fighting with guns, fighting with arrow, fighting with magic. It's like a perfect blend of everything. It's like it truly is chaotic for an apocalyptic setting, and I think this is so good. And that is all I have to say about this book, or this book series. Once again, if you are a fan of real-time strategy game, or just a strategy game, or fan of strategy game in general, I highly recommend that you read this book. And if you find my video and review of this book helpful, then please leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any good books like the one I reviewed today, then drop it down in the comment section. So I could also review it. I can also read about it. Maybe you can talk about it if I already read it. And have a nice day. Peace out.